Hello, Clive. How are
Oh
you?
yeah, how are you?
Hi.
I'm doing really well. It's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet
Um,
you too. Before we start,
Good. How are you?
I will just give a bit of an introduction so you can have an idea of my background, and then I have brought some questions too that I would want to ask. I'm Yash. I work in the Google open source community, and I have held talks at Google, but never did a TEDx before. And I got the opportunity that where I studied in my kindergarten up to high school, that same school that I have been a part of for 18 years, that in collaboration with the Cambridge University is hosting a TEDx. And I got to talk with our principal. I got to tell her that I would want to be a part, and I was just flew to US to give a talk at Google. She was saying, she was surprised. She underneath she said wow, and I got this very opportunity to just go back to that very same school. And I have this thing because my mom is a teacher for students with special needs between 4 to 14-year olds with auditory special needs. I also went to that very school. I got to build some memory retention games and so on, got to test it with the real people, got to work alongside with some Google accessibility engineers that helped me out. And yeah, this more or less has been a thing. I also am in touch with the O'Reilly's latest web accessibility cookbook author. His name is Manuel Matuzovic, and I also got to professionally review that very book, and it all just feels so good to be around such accessibility enthusiast. And that's more or less about me. I do wanted to ask you that firstly about how did your TED talk went in terms of that you were also interacting. I saw that you were asking people to raise their left hand or their right hand. Is it more or less that many TED talks are also monotonous? So what's the way that you would recommend me to be doing?
Well, the I thought my talk was going to be a lot more technical, and then I realised that most people don't have a clue
Yeah.
about accessibility at all. And the title of my talk was "How Can Blind People Use the Internet? They Can't See the Screen," because that's what somebody actually said to me, and that's somebody who works in inclusion. So therefore, if your audience, which I think you said in your email, don't really understand anything about
Yeah,
accessibility,
they are like
you have,
8 to 16-year-old students, so they really don't have that very course to understand web accessibility.
but the thing is, people in their 50s don't understand web accessibility. It's nothing to do with age. And actually, it's great because you've got a wonderful opportunity to get them thinking in the right way. So, what I would suggest is think of pitching it in because you're working with school kids. I would um, keep it much more in pitching in ways that they would understand. So they all use computers, yeah, and therefore you could start with a question. Well, I'm now covering the screen. How are you going to use it? Or I've taken your mouse away. How are you going to? What would you do then? And get them thinking because it's like when people start thinking, then
Yeah.
they really that's when you start changing the way that they operate. After my TED talk, people didn't. Well, it was a TEDx event. TED, and the reason why I'm really excited for you because TED.com featured it, and it's been on net on TED for, and the numbers have just gone very high. But it was originally it was on TEDx and TED liked it. That's why what you're doing is I hope they will do the same.
Yeah.
So if you pitch, so therefore it's not so. If you think of pitching it to the age group that you're working with, and that hopefully will pick up a much sort of worldwide audience. So therefore, think of it in terms of how people use, maybe even in things in terms of people use smartphones. I'm guessing
Yeah.
that's what most people use,
Yeah.
and how would you use your smartphone if you can't see?
Yeah.
Um, Website, because you don't want to get into anything too technical. I
Yeah.
talked about an accessibility audit using, as you'll know, but using illustrations and images and so that's really I would suggest that the way that you pitch it and if you do it in the way that it's affects them directly, so it's mobile use, computer use, and what they do, and then you'll get them thinking.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's kind of the way that I would do it. The more things that you can, and you say you can talk about social media. I mean, social media on things like Facebook and LinkedIn are not great for accessibility anyway.
Yeah.
They're very difficult. My team are guys, they're the blind people particularly. They find LinkedIn pretty difficult to use.
Yeah.
But of course, kids don't use LinkedIn, but kids use Facebook.
Yeah, they do more or less.
Yeah. So, or even so. I would just kind of pitch it in. I would pitch it in terms of what's relevant to them. But you see, also, you could even. I mean, yeah. Maybe start with the basics, and say next time on a computer, take your mouse away. Put your mouse away. How would you use it? And then so and yeah, it's a shame obviously you're doing it as a talk, so you're delivering it, so you could get there. I mean, you could ask questions of them and say, if I take your mouse away, how easy do you think? Oh, I don't know. I'm just trying to think, how would you put it? Are these kids that you work with, or are you just going to go back as a visiting speaker?
I'm just going to go back as an alumni now. So it's been like I'm out of touch for like 6 years with my school. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, and you could ask, and in fact, one thing that you could ask some questions about whether they want to get into web design, whether any of them want to get into it, and then if you do, well, this is something that you need to think about.
Yeah.
This is something that you really need to think about, and because you're going to be teaching the people that you're working for, because most people don't get this. I mean, the statistics don't lie.
Yeah.
And therefore, you could start with that. I mean, I think it's just a case of being able to pitch it to them in a way that they would find relevant. My talk was quite slow, and was deliberately slow so that I wanted to get people engaged. But it was, you had an audience of a big range of people. If I did it again, or if I was doing that talk again, but in front of a bunch of kids, I'd make the whole thing much faster.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, I was always worried about speaking too fast, so I probably slowed down a little bit too much. I think, have you got anybody mentoring you?
I do have, there is a sir named Dirk. He is the part of Google Accessibility Lead from Zurich. So he has been mentoring me in all of accessibility and things. So
Good.
yeah.
But is he mentoring you with your TED Talk?
No, he isn't aware at the moment. At the moment, we are doing something else. Like we are making, that this year we had videos which only 0.5% had captions as of the state of the web report. So I'm building something which will add auto captions using the Gemini Nano. And if this works well, then hopefully in the future, everyone will be having video as auto captions if small businesses could not afford their captions as manually. So yeah.
But doesn't YouTube? But YouTube does captioning.
YouTube does captioning, but there are many websites and many companies who are not able to afford that and not be on the basic accessibility level of having those videos embedded with captions. So yeah, it's for them.
Okay. So, yeah. So I would, yeah. I mean, it's what are your thoughts? How do you think you want to structure it?
The way I have always thought about is to think like if you were listening to some let's say some songs or something on YouTube, or you were just watching a video, but now you are in a library, you do not have your earphones. How would you do that? Now I want to brainstorm them. I want to brainstorm them, give them a situational type of a thing, make them understand. Yeah, now you can use something like captions that allow you to see it. Or there was another example of accessible design by Patricia Moore, which really inspired me. It was the fridge in 1979, where she was working at a company where they had lock type of mechanism of fridge, and the company told her, we don't design for them, for the people who are having these special needs. And she really got empathetic, and she tried to do it by herself. She tried to like strap her arm, or try to just go nearby, strapping her towards a wheelchair, and try to see what kind of design would be better than the lock and key mechanism to open the fridge. And now what we have is much better, or like much better than, not as good as automatic, but yeah, it is still a lot better in design. So yeah, these type of things, that how in the past products were revolutionized in terms of design, and how in the future I would want them to revolutionize something. Just see what is not accessible around you, and if they can do something about it. That's what I
That's a,
was thinking. Yeah.
that is such a good idea. Yeah, and then just getting them thinking about things in the world, in the real world. So, the example I had about the sliding doors and the manual doors,
Yeah.
and the fact that everybody finds a heavy door difficult to use.
Yeah.
Somebody in a wheelchair would find it very difficult, but a lot of people who are not particularly strong would struggle with that. Elderly people, things like that. So it's getting people to see that, getting them to think. I mean, it's a great. The thing is, because it's going to go on. Ted will put it on YouTube as well. So, and hopefully TED.com will put it on their channel as well. Just the only thing I would say, the best advice I could give you is make absolutely certain that you don't express any political opinion.
Yeah.
You don't say anything that could be seen as controversial, because before my talk went on TED.com, they fired so many questions at me. And like one of the statistics I said was about most countries in the world have now got an accessibility policy. They said, where's that information come from? Prove that statement. And
Yeah.
thankfully, I was able to find a United Nations report that showed how many countries were signature to some obscure act which talked about accessibility. So, and they literally went through every single bit.
Yeah.
And they do that because everything they put on TED.com they own, and if something goes up there that is wrong, or they would be the ones who would be in trouble.
Yeah.
So the best advice I can give you is don't say anything that you can't back up.
Yeah. Always fact check
Make
whenever you are saying it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and and make sure that absolutely that it is an issue of justice. It's just issue of global accessibility. Just make sure that you say everything that in that way. You see, the thing is, it's not just about the kids. You're doing a talk. You're doing a TEDx talk that's going to go out and go to lots more people. So. Get their interaction in terms of getting them to do things, raising hands or whatever, or say out loud. But what you don't want to do is have long pauses when you're waiting for them to come back.
Yeah.
You've got to keep the thing moving.
Yeah.
That's really the best bit of advice I can give you. There are some people who've done TED Talks who've not followed the rules, and their stuff doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like they did it. It's such an amazing opportunity. And when you've done it, is it January you're doing it, isn't it?
It's 25th of January next year.
Yeah, so you make sure you let me know when you've done it and it's available, so I'll have a look at it.
Yeah, definitely. I will stay in touch and let you know how my talk went. There was one last question that these kids may
Sure.
have a shorter attention span. I have seen the newer generation being told that they have a shorter attention span. So I'm trying to aim that I would keep my talk to 6 minutes. I saw many talks were like 13 minutes. Yours was like 17 minutes. What would be like the Goldilocks zone? What would be the sweet spot that I should be hitting for this talk in terms of
I
span?
don't think you want. I don't think you want to be less than. I wouldn't say you need to be less than. I wouldn't be just because of the wider audience. I wouldn't go under 10 minutes really.
Okay.
Um, I wouldn't. I mean, you can do a maximum of 17. Mine's 30, 13 and a half. If I'd have spoken it faster, I could have probably got it down to about 11 minutes. But yeah, 10 minutes, I would say, is 10, between 10 and 12 minutes.
Okay.
Because the thing is, it's not, don't think too much about the audience in the room.
Yeah.
Think about the audience who are going to be watching it on YouTube and
Yeah.
whatever.
I got it. Thank you
You
so
just,
much.
does that help? I hope that's helpful for you.
That's
I'm
very
very,
helpful.
very excited for you. Are you, are you, are you giving a presentation in English or are you giving it in?
We will be giving in English only. It's a whole English school, so
Oh, okay, fantastic. Good, good. So, yeah, no, I think it will be. I'll be excited. I wish you luck with it,
thank you so much.
and
Yeah, I hope to see,
in
be in
touch.
touch.
Let me know. Let me know when it's done, and I'll share it on. Are we connected on LinkedIn? I
We are
think we.
connected on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Keep in touch, mate.
All right.
All right,
Thank you.
take care. It's
Bye.
nice to talk to you. All the best.
Thank you.
Bye bye.